week in racing. It's time to recap it. And who better to do it than Michael and Magic? Two bros/pros who cover the highs and lows of racing around the globe on every one of the shows. Real fans look forward to these guys and their last thoughts, cause they know they're not talking out of their royal ascot. What they say makes sense. So ladies and gents, sit back and relax as Blinkers Off presents The Magic Mike Show, where you hear the experts speak. The Magic Mike Show. Tune into the show every week. The Magic Mike Show. You can trust the show is the bomb because it's being brought to you by RacingDudes.com.
What's up, everybody? I'm Magic.
And I'm Mike.
And this is The Magic Mike Show, episode 306. Mr. Samich. We're sorry, folks. We're a little late getting going here, as Jason correctly predicted in the chat. Mike Samich on the phone with the Naira stewards wondering, what up with that? Sorry if you had the 4, not the 8, or vice versa. Mr. Samich, how are you doing today?
I'm doing pretty good. I had them both, but I then tried to single the 7 in the next race. We forgot to change leads, and so that went busto changeo on me. But, hey, what can you do, man? It was, the New York stewards, man. Del Mar stewards, too. Stewards in general, it's a tough job, man. It is an absolutely thankless job, but I would agree here. That was just one of those where it's like, yeah, you could see him coming down, you could see him not coming down, and it's tough, man, because everyone sees it differently, so it just puts everyone in a tough spot. But I do love Twitter whenever one of these things happen, because, man, it's hilarious. You see people one on top of the other, 100% comes down, the next one, 100% should stay up, and it's funny to read those.
It kind of reminds me of college basketball or like the NFL playoffs. Sometimes you see the referees insert themselves into the game. It's like, can you just let them play? Sometimes the stewards, I feel like they insert themselves a little too much into the racing action. And then other times they're gone when you're like, they tripped 3 horses. We're not going to look at that? No? Okay. All right. I guess we're keeping that horse up. So it's a wild, wacky world out there, but at least here on the Magic Mike Show, you know that we're going to try and give you some winners. We're looking at Saratoga's late pick 4 sequence on closing day Saturday, the closing day weekend, Saturday. We got a couple grade 1 races here, and Mike, it's a testament to the 2 allowance fields that are in this pick 4, that the grade 1 races, especially the last one to end things, we're going to have to go fast because people are going to fall asleep. It's that boring of a field.
Yeah, man. I mean, look, we had all the stars out last weekend. And so this is kind of like the B squad coming in to run the grade 1 races at Saratoga. And so they're not as compelling. You're not going to see those Jackie's Warrior versus Life is Good type matchup, which was one that, like, yeah, I love betting on horses, but that's one of the ones where you just want to watch the race. You just want to see what happens. Let's just say, Happy Saver versus, what is it, Fuerza de Oro is not exactly the same passion inside those two. So we'll see what happens, man. But I think it's actually a pretty good sequence to play. I have a trip horse in the first race, so I'm pretty excited about using. And then I think you might be able to beat one of the last 2 or some of the favorites in the later one. So it's a fun little sequence. We'll see what we can do. Hopefully get some winners home.
So you and I are, you went 5 deep in the first leg. I went 3 deep. I have a trip horse. I wonder if we have the same trip horse. We'll be curious to find out. This is going to be a good sequence. I'm just happy that the state-bred turf allowance race is at the beginning of the sequence, because then I don't, for whatever reason, when they're at the end, I get anxiety about it. If you flip this around, this card gives me anxiety. The way it is now, I'm like, the Jockey Club Gold Cup. Sorry, that race is at the end there. By the way, everybody who made fun of Del Mar in the Pacific Classic, shove off. We had such a better field than this. First of all, talent-wise, we had a better field. Betting-wise, we had a much better field. That six-horse field is pretty boring, but I think once we get to that race, Mike, the first 3 races before it, they'll be pretty good.
Yeah, they'll be pretty good, and so will some of the early races on the card too. Like race 7 is one of those that I'm really excited to look forward to. It's a maiden special 800K, 7 furlongs for 2-year-old colts, and you've got some bangers in there. You've got a $310,000 horse coming out the Albert Star Barn, but the 4-horse Misbehaved is supposed to be an absolute runner out of the Pletcher barn. Sold for $875,000, 7-2 in the morning line. You've got a Mott horse that sold for $400,000 for OXO Equine. So that's going to be a really fun race too. So I'm looking forward to not just the later part of the card, but I'm excited about that 2-year-old race.
Yeah, it's looking pretty good. The George Weaver horse, the 5 Olympian, kind of catches my eye first look at it too. Weaver's been pretty sneaky at Saratoga in the last handful of years when it comes to 2-year-olds, especially if they're making the second start. So if this horse doesn't win first out, which he's facing a really loaded Pletcher, like Mike said, we might be on Monday, Mike, saying stable up Olympian. So we'll look forward to that side. Before we get into this show, though, Mike, what is the best thing you saw this week?
Well, real quick to piggyback on your Olympian comment.
Sorry.
To work out 3 back on the turf. I think the plan is that this horse is not going to be fully cranked this race. I think he's going to be fully cranked second race out. So Olympian's one of those. Next time out on the turf, I think he wins for fun, probably at Belmont. Man, best thing I saw was football last night. I was so excited to watch. What was it? UAB play Jacksonville State just to see some actual stat. I watched every single snap of Jacksonville State UAB. I might have a few shekels on it, which would be why I watched the game. But
of course,
I watched every single snap. I can't wait. We got a full slate tonight. Just excited to have football back in my life.
I'm impressed that you were so excited to watch football. Not only did you watch UAB Jacksonville State, you watched through a scoreless first quarter. And then you watched one team roll the other 31-0. So, man, especially if you had some shekels on it, that first quarter with the double goose egg, that must have been sweating a little bit for you.
Well, it was one of those sneaky. It was a bad trip for UAB, right? Dominating in first downs, dominating in time of possession, had a fumble, had a drop pass, and that's why they weren't able to move the ball. So it's a nice little in-game opportunity if you were paying attention, because clearly one team was better than the other, and they just hadn't quite got it rolling yet. A little too sloppy.
I don't have TVG up, but Nick Feldman says, guys, root for number 5 and Lance Saratoga's live to a nice daily double. So, Mike, keep us alert. Do you have it pulled up right now? How many minutes to post?
I'm actually looking at the last race where I'm still lamenting my loss by the 7 sail by. We got 20 minutes to post to see if Boom Boom Kaboom can get her done. Perfect. I did have Boom Boom Kaboom in my pick 5, so I agree. 5 is definitely live.
I'll keep an eye on the clock and watch it go forward. But for me, best thing, I teased earlier when we were on Tuesday. I said my son is going to be starting daycare. He started daycare. He had a great, successful first day yesterday. I got more done in a 3-hour period than I usually do all day when he's
amazing,
around.
Isn't it?
I did miss him, but it was nice to just I was itching to be super productive. So that was great. But also, I don't know if you're caught up on What If, Mike, but the latest one had Doctor Strange. First of all, Doctor Strange became my favorite character in the MCU. I loved this one. It was dark. It was despair. It made you feel kind of when you got done watching. I loved it because they actually decided to go that far with it. Did you seen it? Are you caught up on it?
I did catch up on it. I thought it was a good episode. I can't get into it, the What If series, as much as I can the other ones. For me, it's just having the consistent new story every week is not as compelling as that 6-episode miniseries type thing that they were doing with the other shows.
Right.
But I feel like you kind of have to watch because I'm sure a lot of it's going to be coming back. This little octopus monster dude has come out in 2 of the 3 episodes. I bet the octopus monster dude's coming into the MCU at some point. So I think you kind of have to pay attention to some of that stuff just to see where it goes. But to me, this is a cut below kind of what we've seen them do in the past.
Well, you know what's not a cut below, Mike? Our handicapping prowess. Let's get into Saturday's late pick 4 sequence at Saratoga. Riders up! Mike, taking a look at the first race of the late pick 4 sequence at Saratoga on Saturday, September 4th. Race 9 on the card, field of 11 New York bred fillies and mares 3 and up, going to mount the 16th on the outer turf course. We do have one main track only entry, which is the 1 Karamoka, Kara's Dreamer. The 1A is expected to run. Weather, Mike, looks like it's going to be pretty good. We should be on the turf for these races. Your favorite here is the number 10 English Breeze at 5-2. Kara's Dreamer, I mentioned, is 3-1. Where are you going on top?
Well, let's kick it off with a price. I'm going to play a 50-cent ticket and a $5 ticket. I am going to single here to kick off the $5 ticket, and I'm going to do it with a 8-1 shot on the morning line. This is the horse I was kind of teasing in the intro. The 6th horse, Just Okay is Not Okay, is a trip trouble horse for me. If you watch that last race at Saratoga, it's a steadied early, 3 to 4 wide on the turns and the trip notes. That's an understatement. This horse pretty much got taken out of any chance to win out of the gate early, especially for a horse I think does its best running when it's closer to the pace. You can see that last time when it broke its maiden at Belmont, it was able to be closer up to the pace and be able to score. I expect a trip more like this coming back today, especially with Irad jumping back aboard. Pletcher's been obviously on fire. He's been doing very well there. I like the Pletcher-Irad combination. Second time out against winners, second time over this Saratoga track, which I think will help. But more importantly, I mean, God, the trip can't be as bad as it was last time. And this is not a field of world beaters. I mean, you mentioned the 10 horse on the outside, who's our favorite. This is almost an auto chuck for me. I mean, do I want David Donk without Jose Ortiz up? No. Do I want David Donk off a layoff? No. Like, this is just, it's very easy for me to not even include the 5-2 morning line favorite in the 10 horse here. So I'm going to single up the 6 in my $5 ticket. I am going to spread like crazy in the 50-cent ticket. But for me, the 6 is one of those trip trouble horses I think is worthwhile playing back at a price.
But we are lockstep here. The 6 was my top pick here, too. When you said trip horse, I was like, it's got to be the 6 because that's my top pick for all the reasons you outlined. Pretty great. I'm also against the 10, not using English Breeze. I don't like being stuck out that far, and I think that the way that she runs with her running style, plus you mentioned David Donk first off, the long layoff, not particularly ideal. She is an English channel, so mile on the 16th at age 4 now. She might just be getting started. She might want to go even longer than that. We do really like the 6, which is another English channel. Let's also talk about the 1A Kara's Dreamer. The barn is at 0 for 10 at the meet, 6 for 10 hitting the board, so maybe needs a little bit of racing luck. Just 2 for 64 on the year. But, Mike, did you know that Mitchell Friedman, in the last 5 years, when he has the favorite in a race, is 5 for 11?
That's crazy. I mean,
that's insane.
That means Mitchell Friedman, when they're getting bet, they're running. This, for me, was the 5th horse on my ticket out of 5 teams. So I didn't absolutely love Kara's Dreamer. I actually liked Kara's Dreamer last time out when she went up at 3-1, 10-1 morning line. It just didn't get a great trip, never really got to run into it. And if you look at what the time was, too, I mean, no one was closing. They did 113 for 6 furlongs and came home in 135 and 2. So we're talking, a sub 23 second final quarter mile there. That's just, you're not able to close ground when you're doing that. I think you're going to get a little more of a pace today. I'm not sure it'll be hot up front, but I suspect you're going to have a little bit more of an ability to close. I think the mile and 16th distance here is a little bit better for this horse as well. If you look 2 back, what Kara's Dreamer was able to do, she's able to run in and close onto that pace. Run mile 16th 4 times, has 1 win and 1 second place. So I think she's a worthwhile use. I thought the 2 horse.
Sorry, before we move on, can I just show you something? This is how close. This is how close she came to winning that race. That's how close she is to not even being in this race. Same course, same distance, same setup. So that's why I like her. Sorry.
No, I'm with you, man. I was actually going to. Do you want to talk about Kara's Dream at all? I was going to move on to my next pick here.
No, just that last race, for me, there was 2 horses that won out of that, this one and then the other one I'm using, but I really liked her because that race 2 back. And then the last one, I'll just give her a quick, she got stuck behind horses. She didn't get going until it was too late, so that's why she was 4th, beating a neck for 3rd. But sorry. Anyways, to your next horse, please.
Yeah, so I'm going to go to the 2-horse Electric Youth, who is returning to the turf. And it ran okay early in the meet at Saratoga, ran behind Kara's Dreamer and Freedom Machine, and it didn't really have too much of an excuse in that race. Comes back, runs a mile and 1/8 on the dirt. I don't think the horse had any chance at a mile and 1/8, but I like the fact that we're now taking the blinkers off. That, to me, is always an interesting move, especially when the horses had blinkers in every single one of their races. 29%, essentially 2 for 7 here for Kimmel when he removes the blinkers. Velasquez stays aboard this horse, which I think is a nice angle as well. So I'm going to take a shot with the 2-horse Electric Youth, who's 5-1 morning line. My other next up horse, I'm actually going to go to the 5, Golden Oldie. I'm interested to see where this horse ends up sitting, but has shown speed in most of the routing turf races. I think this horse has a chance to go wire to wire. Don't love the fact that Rosario's on it. I'm kind of counting on him to get out of the gate. But, the horse has the ability to go the 23 and change, 24 opening quarter mile and be able to get to the front. I just didn't see a ton of speed in this spot. And so because of that, I kind of wanted to lean on someone I thought could get to the lead. That led me to the 5-horse Golden Oldie.
I didn't like the last race at Monmouth where the horse was 25, 49 and 4, 113 and 3. If that horse gets away with his fractions here, then I'll let the horse beat me because I don't think it's going to be that slow. Actually, I think that the 6, our trip horse, if she can actually get out of the damn gate cleanly, I think she's got a good chance to at least press the pace up there. I didn't like that Rosario's on this horse either. I'm a little concerned that Rosario's going to be able to sit back with it or get this horse to relax other than maybe she just wants to run off. The 2 was interesting to me. I didn't like the effort that she gave 2 back in that similar race that Kara's Dreamer is coming out of, as well as the 6 horse. I really like the 3 here, and I know this is the 5th horse for you, so it worked out perfectly that we talked this way. First time versus winners, and she broke her maiden against 40K Starter Allowance Company. Not great. Came over this course in distance, and she definitely was a lot better that race than in the past. I think the blinkers adding on that time really helped. Luis Saez is going to stay here rather than going with the 6 who he's ridden before. Needs a huge buyer jump, right? But she is 4 years old. There's a lot of 3-year-old horses in this, so maybe that gives her a little bit of an advantage. Looking at lucky horses, they tend to get better as they get a little older, so you could see this horse at 4. Maybe she just now figured it out. Maybe the blinkers helped. I don't know what it is, but I like her enough. And with Joe Sharp and Luis Saez, the meet leading rider at 8-1, I'm going to take that here.
Yeah, I this is another one where like I'm not totally in love with this horse. It's the fourth in, but I agree. Getting Sias here, the possibility of getting an inside trip going around the 2 turns, I think is pretty solid. I think the stretch out in distance was pretty big. At 1-for-1 at the distance now, I think you're going to see a step third off the layoff, third in the 4-year-old cycle. There's a lot of reasons to think you'll see improvement. And Sias has just been absolutely on fire with everything that he's riding. So I agree. The 3 horse is one of the players here. I went back and forth between the 8 and the 2, or I'm sorry, the 8 and the 5. So if someone likes the 8 and thinks that horse can make the lead instead of the 5, I would not try and talk you off it either. Second out on the turf for Temple City, second out in the 3-year-old campaign. Horse has every right to improve and should be able to get the lead if Leparoux sends. And this kind of is one of those Leparoux walks the dog on the front end type races if you don't see Rosario go. So I wouldn't hate the use of the 8 here either.
Yeah, Mark Hennig, and horse has never tried routing before, so 2 turns at least, so it'll be interesting. Lots of dirt tries against fellow New York breds didn't quite work out last year, but hey, maybe turf, maybe 2 turns. We'll try something new, and you're getting like a nice price at 15-1. Move on to the second leg of the late pick 4 sequence at Saratoga on Saturday, September 4th, race 10 on the card. We've got a field of 12 males, 3 and up, including Mike. Did you realize this? There's a former Magic Mike Show draftee in this field. Going 6.5 furlongs on the dirt. While Mike looks and try to figure out which horse that is. Their favorites, number 3, Ducali at 5-2. This horse was a very impressive winner at Saratoga in his second career start. Going 7 furlongs. That was a show a race that we covered on Magic Mike Show. Mike was all over Ducal because he hated the runner-up asking for a Baskin. Are you putting Ducal on top again?
I'm leaving Ducal off because I hate asking for a Baskin, man. Like I don't think 2 beaten asking for a Baskin by 2 lengths is enough here. The buyer came back big with a 97, but I mean, I think we've talked about the asking for a Baskin Mahamo race on 5 shows at Saratoga because of how bad that race has come back now. And I'm going to fade Ducal off it because I do think there's some really interesting horses in here. And I was originally going back and forth between Ducal and another horse for my 4th horse in. And when I'm doing that with a 5-2 shot, it's better to just chuck the favorite because I don't like him. I don't want to use a 5-2 shot defensively when I think it could chalk out in the last 2 legs. So, look, on top here, I ended up going with the 6 Olympiad. It's one of those horses that we have not seen in a really long time for the Bill Mott barn. Bill Mott used to be not so good at this. Bill Mott's now pretty good at this.
Yeah.
He's 20% off the 180-plus day layoff. Horse broke its maiden going 7 furlongs at Saratoga. And, oh, by the way, let's look at who this horse has faced. He was the favorite against reinvestment risk, first time out. Second time out, he beats Cattle River and Greatest Honor. I think we've heard of a couple of those horses. They turned out to be pretty good. Now we get a year on the bench. You're coming back here. The workouts are solid enough in the morning. You're adding Lasix, which should help the horse take a step forward. Mott's 22% at first-time Lasix. Like I said, 20%, 180-plus days with a $2.43 ROI. Alvarado is on the horse last year, who generally gets Mott's best 2-year-olds. He's back on the horse here to kick off the campaign. I think Olympiad could just blow this field out of the water. We might see a real runner here in Olympiad. So I'm excited to see what the 6 can do. I'm going to go with the 6 Olympiad 8-1 top pick.
I had 2 top picks, and that is one of them. I also look at this horse's workout pattern, Mike. He was at Belmont Park consistently for his return. That tells me that Bill Mott wasn't planning on bringing this horse back at Saratoga. Thought, we'll just save him for Belmont. And then he does that 4 furlong work on the training track in 48 flat, which for Bill Mott, when there's not a race on the horizon, that's pretty damn quick. What happens after that? Suddenly a horse appears at Saratoga, works twice, now shows up right on closing weekend. I think this horse is primed for a huge effort off the bench, especially by moving. I also thought that the 9-horse crowded trade was a must-use, and it's because this horse is getting back to what he was good at to start his career, which was going 1 turn on fast dirt. Breaks his maiden on debut, granted. It's at Aqueduct, in the winter Aqueduct crowd, not as good at Gulfstream. Almost wins the Gotham in his second try. The Wood was okay, but it was a 1 1/8. The Preakness, that was a terrible race. He didn't belong there, way over his head. Returns in the Amsterdam. Chad Brown tries to spot him into a fast dirt sprint. Doesn't work out. It ends up being sloppy. Now we're taking a big class drop down here. 1 turn clearly is going to be his best option moving forward. I like that we're getting 5-1. I'm a little surprised here. We're going to catch a fast track, and I think this is a great spot. Oh, by the way, Jackie's Warrior beat him last out. He was a length behind second behind Jackie's Warrior. Jackie's Warrior is pretty damn amazing. So the 9 was also a must-use for me. I know you used him. Did he qualify as a must-use, or is he a next up?
So he was the next up for me, but he did make the $5 ticket here. And I guess I'm going 3 deep on the $5 ticket here. I'm going 4 deep on the 50 center. For me, the 6 was a top pick, but the 9 crowded trade was right there. I went back and forth. Second off a layoff. And I look, the horse has an okay wet rating, but not wonderful. So I think the fast track is going to help getting back to that surface. I like the fact that Brown aggressively spotted this horse in the Amsterdam, and now we're getting into a little bit more realistic spot. It's not like this is an easy spot. I mean, $103,000 non-winners of one at Saratoga come back pretty tough. I mean, this isn't an easy race by any means. But I do think that this is a good spot for crowded trade to be in. Should improve off the drop. If we go back to the Gotham, horse is going to be really tough. The other horse that made the next up list was actually the other Chad Brown, one of the few 4-year-olds here in the field. I like horses by constitution. Been a wonderful sire since he started siring horses, or we started to see them run 2 years ago. This horse just seems ready to fire, and the fact that we've got crowded trade and hometown in the race makes me want to use both of them. Again, like let's look at some of the horses this horses faced. Yaupan was the first horse this horse saw. That one's a pretty good one.
Welcome to the big leagues, kid.
Yeah, no kidding. I mean, Indian Counselor, Lost in Rome, not bad horses at all. First Captain, pretty good horse. Won next out. Like this has been hometown's been kind of a tough luck loser in a lot of these different spots. I like the fact that Brown decided that this is where you want to debut it. So for me, the 9 and the 10 are both very, very interesting horses who I think have stakes races in their near future. And the same with the 6. So I'm going to go with Olympiad on top, but then go with the 9 and the 10 on both the 50 cent and the $5 ticket.
10 was the third horse in for me. I love this. One thing that caught my attention that you didn't mention, how many times does a horse start with Rudy Brissett and then move to Chad Brown? Like, I'm not knocking Rudy Brissett, but usually with the clients he has, there's Chad Brown and Baffert get the A squad, and when they don't pass the mustard test, they get sent down to Rudy. You don't see a horse go back up the pipeline like that. So that really caught my attention. You see how the horse has done since he showed up with Chad. So that's a great horse to use. So that's the 3 that we agree on. Now we're going to split apart. I'm going to use the other Bill Mott in here, the 8, Baby Yoda. He was a pace-setting winner against 50K allowance, starter allowance company last out, going 6 furlongs. So you've got concerns. Can he handle going farther than 6? He's never tried it. He does have the best early time form U.S. pace rating of 115. The fact that he did a 4 furlong work in 46-3 back on August 22nd after he did that Gate Dwyer win at Saratoga tells me he's held his form. The question mark with him, is he going to be able to go 6.5 furlongs? My dogs disagree, and I'm guessing since you didn't use him, you probably think the distance is a little too far for him too.
I actually have a problem with who he beat in that race. I don't know if you know Jake Rocks. Jake Rocks is 1 for 25.
Ow.
Yeah, Jake Rocks just really isn't that good. The 1 for 25 was back in November of 2019 over the Aqueduct turf, going 6 furlongs. So not exactly one of those horses that I'm like, oh yeah, you beat him. And then let's talk a little about Repo Rocks. 1 for 13. Broke his maiden going 6.5 at Belmont, got an 88 buyer for it, but has not been able to produce anything near it and came back in an allowance and lost by 7 at 4-1 next time out over the Saratoga Dirt. So I think that race sucks. I think that's why Baby Yoda was able to wire the field. I think that's why I have no interest in using Baby Yoga there. I thought the 1 Tuggle was a little interesting on the inside. I mean, we've seen Jeremiah Englehart just pop these winners randomly, and this is one of those, to me, that just screams like it's going to fire here. Second off what would be it's first off a layoff, but second off a really long layoff. Didn't see the horse for, almost 15 months. Comes back in a $92,000 non-winners of 1 at Belmont. Is the favorite, which I think right there tells you something. Tail of the Union and Mr. Phil both are in that race, and he runs pretty well, ends up running second, missing by a length. Irad takes them out. Irad takes them out right back here. And Englehart is able to get these type of horses home. And if you didn't think that much of this horse, then he wouldn't end up being here. This horse also ran 2 graded stakes at Saratoga last year, in 2019, including the Saratoga Special. I think we're going to see a big effort here for Tuggle second off the layoff. I'm interested in the 1 at 8-1, and I get Irad up.
You just convinced me. I didn't want to use Ducali. I had him as my 5th and last horse on the ticket, and I was looking at the 1 before, and I was like, I don't know. And then as soon as I saw he's on your ticket, I was like, if Mike makes a compelling case, I'm going to switch. So you did, so I did. I like this horse, especially 8-1. He's a 4-year-old, so we don't have to worry. The 3-year-old step up for Ducali is a little concerning. I think 5-2 he's going to get hammered. And like you were saying, and we're going to get into in a second, these last 2 grade 1s could get pretty chalky. So you want to try and find some value, and having the favorite in all 4 of these legs, which we don't have in the first, but having it in 3 legs isn't going to do you any favors.
Yeah, I mean, you got to be a little concerned. The last leg, you're probably going to get most tickets split between 2 separate horses. I'll be singling in the last leg to try and take a stand there. But Ducali is going to be singled in quite a few tickets. If you can get around Ducali here, I think it's going to add value. And I think that 10 horse is going to take money in the first race. I'd be surprised if he goes off as the favorite, to be honest. But I do think you're going to see money there. So if we can beat 2 favorites heading into the last race, or last 2 races, hopefully we can make this thing pay something.
And if Ducali wins this, that might be a freak horse for Brad Cox if he's able to beat this first level allowance in his first time facing winners. We'll find out on Saturday. Until then, we'll move on. Race 11 is the third leg of the late pick 4 sequence at Saratoga, Saturday, September 4th. This is the Grade 1 $600,000 Flower Bowl Invitational Stakes field of 7 fillies and mares 4 and up. Going to Mound 3. It's on the inner turf course. And your big 4-5 favorite, number 3, Warlike Goddess, a favorite of Nick Feldman, who is actually waiting. Should be about, 2 minutes to post? 1 minute to post at Saratoga for his number 5 horse. This is a Breeders' Cup winning you're in for the filly and mare turf. If you listen to the show once, you know Mike and I love Warlike Goddess, so of course we're using her, but we're not singling her.
Yeah, I mean, the last race, if you want to be blown away by a horse, just go watch the Glens Falls again, man. Warlike Goddess, Leparoux did never hit Warlike Goddess, shook the reins at her twice, and she made My Sister Nat look like she was standing still. Now, My Sister Nat is not like a world beater, but My Sister Nat has run in 10 straight graded stakes, like pretty good. And she's won the Grade 3 Weigh a couple seconds, including in this race last year to Civil Union. So I'm not knocking My Sister Nat, who's made over $580,000 in her career. But man, Warlike Goddess looked like a freak. And I don't see how you don't use Warlike Goddess in this spot. I am putting her on top, but we've seen in these turf races time and time again that pace makes the race, right? And that if you get someone loose on the lead who maybe even doesn't want the distance, they may be able to get home if you're allowed to let them walk too much. And when you look at the early time form ratings in this race, it is a freaking mess. I mean, My Sister Nat's a 27, and Julian Leparoux and Warlike Goddess is a 14.
Yep.
So we're talking like dawdling, like Magic could beat him in the first quarter mile.
Yep.
And it doesn't get any better when you go outside. The 7 is 64, the 6 is 43, the 5 is 53. So that means that American Bridge, who is running toward the rear in French Stakes, or La Signare is going to get an absolutely easy lead. And I think we all know who it's going to end up being. Ricardo is going to send the one-horse La Signare, and I think that makes La Signare dangerous. Now, La Signare has no interest in getting this distance. That's the big problem here, is that she's going to have to go longer than she's ever gone, and she didn't really love the 1.25 mile Flower Bowl last year when she lost to My Sister Nat. But the pace difference here is what I think is a huge edge. And Santana is actually one of those jockeys who's pretty good up front. This is on the inner turf where the inside is like the pace has been important. You have to save ground. It's a 3-turn race. So guess what? The one gets that inside lane right away. I think there's enough of a case that I'm going to put La Signare on both my $5 and my 50-cent ticket and see if we can get an upset with a one going wire to wire here.
Love this horse in a potential gate-to-wire threat. You're going to use the 3, going to use the 1. Don't need to speak further on that, other than to say Warlike Goddess, winner of 5 of 6 starts. The one time she lost, Antoinette went gate-to-wire. So she can be beat if a horse can get loose like that. We'll see what happens with La Signare. I also used the 2 American Bridge, partially because we've got a new shooter angle here. You've got a Euro coming in. I don't think this is the best Euro we've seen by any means. She had to go to Italy to win a Group 3 race, which is not great, and she wasn't even favored there. But this is a horse who is owned by Peter Brandt. Peter Brandt has won this race more times than any other owner. When this race is done, she is transferring. She's going to stay here and go to Chad Brown. Chad Brown has won this race 8 times, more than any other trainer. Chad Brown's best jockey showed up on the 2. I think this horse is kind of sneaky, and I think Irad's going to try and get a feel for her. I think a big reason that she's here, they were looking for a lot firmer ground than she was getting overseas. You see there's a lot of synthetic success here. 6 starts, 2 wins, 2 seconds. She does have 2 wins on the turf, including that Italian Group 3 last out. Not a very highly rated race. I wouldn't say point to that and say this is why she's going to win necessarily. I'm more reading the connections in the tea leaves, seeing what's happening here. She did look good in that race, but that was a field that if she's going to compete here, she should have beaten maybe a little easier than that. But at 12-1, Chad Brown's best jockey getting aboard. The horse is going to stay with Chad after this. I could afford to use her, so I put her on.
Yeah, bummer, Nick. The 5 ran pretty well. Looked like he had a chance top of the lane, just couldn't get it done. Yeah, the 2 horse here, American Bridge. I mean, I went back and forth on this. I think it's interesting Irad comes aboard, but then I look at My Sister Nat. Irad's never ridden My Sister Nat. Who's the other Peter Brandt horse here, right? It's always been Jose. Mm-hmm. So that right away tells me, okay, maybe that's not a thing, right? And Irad actually has not ridden any horse in here except Great Island once, the 6 horse for Chad Brown, but Rosario rode it to a win last time. Mm-hmm. So you're not going to see a switch there. So for me, I think this is more of like Irad just kind of picking up the mount. I have the same problem you do. Look, you had to go to Italy. You weren't the favorite. You run on firm turf once in France and got absolutely shelled, finished 6th, and lost by 8 lengths. So this is one of those horses where, like, look, Warlike Goddess, I think, is a freak. And La Signare last time out had a terrible trip and ran behind Antique and Summer Romance, who are two of the better European horses. So, do I think American Bridge is like Summer Romance level? Because that's what it would take to be better than La Signari. And La Signari, I think, is not the more likely winner of the two I'm using. So, for me, because I'm worried, I don't want to like have the ticket cost too much money. The 2-horse just wasn't one that I wanted to put on the ticket. I considered putting the 7-horse on the ticket, which seems a little nutty, but this is a Charlie DeVoe horse who used to be one of Chad Brown's assistances. Sherry DeVoe horse used to be one of Chad Brown's assistances. Kitten's Joy, right? So going longer should benefit this horse. So for $290,000, and this horse has taken a step forward every single race it's run. It would be a monster step forward here to compete with Warlike Goddess. But if I was going to take a shot, it would be on the 7-horse Castana. It wouldn't be on the 2-horse American Bridge.
That Costana is a horse that I'm real curious to see how she runs, and I'm definitely thinking that this is a horse that could outrun Rods at 15-1. I just think it's too big of a step, but she has run really, really well. At 1 1/8 or longer, she's got 2 wins in 2 seconds, and her 2 defeats were not by much at all. So if she gets up for third, maybe even second, wouldn't be the biggest surprise in the world to me. And Nick Feldman really likes her here, so that's usually a good vote of confidence. If you're new to the show, if Nick Feldman likes a horse that's a long shot, it's usually a pretty good sign.
Yeah, I'm going to play a cold try here, and I'm going to play probably a little bit of a key try, but I'm going to play 3-1-7 cold for a decent amount, and then I'm going to play back to 1-3-7 cold for a smaller amount, right? Let's say like 10x on the 3-1 versus the saver bet on the 1-3-7, because I do think that they're the 1 and the 3 I think are the clear 1-2 horses here, and when I look at like My Sister Nat on the board at 5-1, and I look at Great Island on the board at 4-1, I'd much rather take the upside of the 7-horse who's younger, who's going to be carrying the low weight here with the 1 La Signari and the 4 My Sister Nat, and just the fact that you're getting Saez, who's going to be more forwardly placed than those horses, and the fact that My Sister Nat got absolutely stomped by Warlike Goddess last time. I mean, Warlike Goddess wins by 3 lengths, but could have won by 10. And so the question is, who else can fit inside that 10-length gap? I think Costana is one of those that can do it.
Let's move on to the 4th and final leg of the late pick 4 sequence of Saratoga on Saturday, September 4th. We'll try and figure out who can get the job done here. If any of them want to, field of 6 males, 4 and up, going 1.25 miles. This is the Grade 1 $1 million Jockey Club Gold Cup Stakes. Now held at Saratoga. They switched this in the Flower Bowl with the Woodward and I forget the turf race at Belmont. So I'm not sure why they did that, but this is easily a Jockey Club Gold Cup where Tacitus would get second. Your favorite is the number 1 Forza at 8-5. Number 4 Happy Savers 9-5. Wow. Can't even read my own writing. I apologize. And the number 2 Max Player 5-2 here. Mike, we both love the 1 Forza d'Oro. Tell me about him.
Yeah, I mean, to me, this is a pretty easy place to go. Forza d'Oro was one of those horses that the Mott Barn thought really highly of, especially after winning the Discovery last year. Was like interested to see what the first half of the year campaign was. They were talking about possibly going to the Pegasus, and then just kind of got a little hurt. Ended up not going there. We come back, monster race first back here. I mean, yes, it was over the mud, and the horse has a monster Tomlinson number over the mud, but the Aqueduct race of 1 1/8 was over faster. Got a 101 buyer, comes back the first time as a 4-year-old and replicates that 101 buyer. Has tactical speed, looks like a freak. Second off 4-year-old, second off for Mott. All of these angles are things that I love. And on top of that, look, the Suburban was a little disappointing, right? Let's just call it how it is, right? Like if Max Player wins that race at 11-1, Mystic Guide, clearly the second best horse in that race, maybe the better horse than Max Player eventually when we go down the road a little bit. Happy Saver, we didn't look so good. So yeah, I have no interest in playing Happy Saver at all here. I don't even really love Max Player either. I think Night Ops is the horse I would go for second if I was going to get a little crazy here. But yeah, to me, I think Forza d'Oro is the horse to beat. I think Forza d'Oro is going to have a awesome trip here tactically. Could go to the lead if it wants to. If not, it's going to sit on the inside and be able to stalk. I mean, I think Forza d'Oro is going to be very tough to beat.
If you've got folks who didn't know, I try and guess sometimes where Mike's going to go with his horses and who he likes. And sometimes, we've been doing this long enough, 306 episodes. Sometimes I guess who you just left off. I was right. I was dead on with this race. I figured Night Ops would be your second choice here if you did do that. My concern when I was first looking at this, Mike, was Forza Dioro's sire, Speightstown, right? You think Speightstown, you think sprinter. This is a horse that raced beyond 7 furlongs one time. He lost a one-turn dirt mile by 24 plus lengths. However, Speightstown bred horses at 1.25 miles and longer, 13 for 53. That's a 24% win rate. I don't understand how that works. I guess maybe he's such a short runner that you hit the other end of the spectrum with that, and so suddenly these horses can just run all day. Regardless, don't hate on this horse for being by Speightstown. The way he runs, too, you can just kind of see he's going to be able to handle 1.25 miles, or he should. If he doesn't, I think Happy Saver is the horse that can run him down and beat him. I am going to use Happy Saver here. I don't like that I'm chalking out with 8-5, 9-5. I'm really hoping that Max Player gets a lot of love and is actually the second choice. I'm hoping people look at that Suburban and they say, look, Max Player won. Happy Saver was third. He didn't look great. I would say that was not only his first defeat, easily the worst that horse has looked in his career. But this is a horse that he was caught wide. He was in the slop. If he catches a fast dirt, he's 5 for 5 on it. I think this horse could spring an upset here, and it would be an upset if he ends up being the third choice. I rad staying with him. I understand, however, the price, 9-5, when you're already using 8-5, you don't want to use that. That's fine. I also understand you look at Suburban and don't love it. I just actually, from talking with Nick Feldman, so it's funny that he shows up here. I think if the dirt's fast, I think he can run it down and win this race for the second straight year.
Yeah, I mean, it's possible. I have a little of who have you faced itis with this horse. The optional Clamor 2-back was a 5-horse field, and 3 Technique ran third in that race. 3 Technique looks awful now.
Looked awful then.
Yeah, well, that doesn't bode well for Happy Saver then. The Jockey Gold Cup, again, a 5-horse field, and Mystic Guide. He beat Mystic Guide and Tacitus. Tacitus can't win this race. Mystic Guide, I think is significantly better than him now. And so I don't know we've really improved off of that form. And yeah, okay, it was a long layoff and it's second out and all this stuff, but Pletcher doesn't usually have an issue off longer layoffs. And the horses won at Belmont, so you can't really say it was a Belmont issue. And I cannot swallow a short price on this horse when I was just so unimpressed with that Suburban effort. And I didn't like that horse going into the Suburban, and then to see that bad effort just kind of cemented that mindset that I really don't want to lose any money with Happy Saver. And if Happy Saver beats me, so be it. But this is like Tacitus 2.0. I mean, it's just one of those horses where I don't think this is the right level for Happy Saver. And I thought Happy Saver had a decent shot later in the year and all that before that Suburban. But then, I liked Mystic Guide more in the Suburban, and then you go get that race out of him. And to me, it's just I think this is a grade 2 horse.
That's going to do it for this episode of the Magic Mike Show. Thanks so much for joining Mike and I to go through Saratoga's last Saturday late pick 4 of the year. Very sad tears. Mike, we've got racing Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and Monday to wrap things up at Saratoga, so they're definitely going to leave us with plenty of action, and I'm sure the Samo Bombs will be covering that. We'll talk about that in just a second. First, we're going to give out our tickets. Take a look below. I'll start with mine for 50 cents. I'll go 1, 3, 6 with 1, 6, 8, 9, 10. 1, 2, 3, and 1, 4 for $45. Mike, if we can beat one of the chalks, if we can beat both the chalks in the early spots, this is going to pay very nicely. Give us your tickets, please.
Yeah, so I'm going to play a 50-cent ticket. I'm going to go 1, 2, 3, 5, 6 with 1, 6, 9, 10. With 1, 3, with 1, that'll cost you $20 for 50 cents. Then I'm going to play a $5 ticket because I think that's really the route to go here. I like the trip trouble we saw in the 6. I think you're going to be able. I don't think we're getting 8-1, but I like that we're going to get to that morning line of 8-1. So on the $5 ticket, I'm going to go 6 with 6, 9, 10 with 1, 3 with 1. And I'm hoping that we can see Vlasignari wire the field. That's how you really get some value into this sequence. But if not, and we get that 6 home in the first leg, we can still get some decent money back with that $5 ticket.
Over at racingnews.com, got all sorts of previews available for you, including both Breeders' Cup winning your ins, the Jockey Club Gold Cup for the Classic, and the Flower Bowl for the Filly and Mare Turf. A lot of just great action happening at Saratoga, Del Mar. Kentucky Downs is going to get started Sunday and Monday with some great racing. Mike and I, we talked about coming back on Monday and doing a show looking at Del Mar's late pick 4 on Labor Day. So if you're interested, let us know in the comments. Maybe we'll show up and do that for you on Monday. Mike, the Samo Bombs, you've got Saratoga, you got Del Mar, you got Kentucky Downs. I don't know how you could be any happier.
Yeah, it's going to be fun, man. We're going to go to Del Mar tomorrow just because I'm not sure if we're going to be on or off the turf at Saratoga. So we're going to head to Del Mar tomorrow. Then I think we'll do Saratoga and Del Mar on Saturday. Then we'll figure out, depending on the turf, off the turf for Sunday. And Monday, I have no clue. I mean, we might have to do a grid over Kentucky Downs and then do a grid and tickets at Del Mar, Saratoga. So we'll figure it out. But we're going to be all over the place this weekend, looking for some on the turf racing so we can keep these full fields and try and get some prices home.
It's Gonna be a lot of fun. Make sure you follow us on Twitter. I'm at Curtis Calloward. He is at SummerBomb18, number 1, number 8, Corporate Overlords at Racing_Dudes. The blinker's off, guys. We'll be back on later today. I was actually hoping Aaron was going to show up, and he didn't. Aaron was he did the Rocket Hour this morning with Ricky. Then he did Dudes Who Bet Sports with Papa Dude, taking a look at this weekend's football action. So if you're interested in college football or NFL preseason, take a listen to that one. They'll have blinkers off later today. He said he wanted to pop on here and make it 4 shows in one day, but I guess couldn't be bothered to show up for us. That's okay. Mike, speaking of football, do you have any lines that you like?
I'm playing Appalachian State -9.5 tonight. So I'll throw that one out there. I also like the under in the LSU game. It's going to be one of the televised games. I think it's under 65 right now. Opened at 66.5. I played it, and it's going to keep going down. I think it should be in the low 60s because UCLA's defense looked like they were for real when we saw them last time. So those are the 2 that I've tagged already. There'll probably be a couple other college football games that I like too, but we'll reserve those till Saturday before kickoff.
We'll be back on Monday. Take a look at Del Mar. Make sure you check out racingnews.com. Seriously, all weekend long, we're going to have you covered with previews and recaps. Until next time, I'm Magic.
And I'm Mike.
Good luck this weekend. We'll see you on Monday.
The Magic Mike Show, where you hear the experts speak. The Magic Mike Show. Tune into the show every week. The Magic Mike Show. You can trust the show is the bomb because it's being brought to you by RacingDudes.com.